It's here, in my solitary wanderings through the autumn forests, that it all began. Something undoubtedly had to happen, that little by little I escaped further and further into nature, that I engaged this quest for these images, these atmospheres. Isolation surely encouraged the shaping of this inner world over many years. Today, transforming these emotions into some form of beauty has become primordial. I feel very linked to autumn for all the unspeakable melancholy that it evokes. I decided to pursue it by going far into the southern hemisphere through strange vegetation overlooked by stone fortresses in Patagonia. Gnarls of twisted branches, bizarre with fiery backgrounds, becoming orangey yellow. There are even trees that have 3 or 4 colors on them, so it progresses from top to bottom. It's really a dreamy place. Composing images in the forest is always a bit chaotic. There are so many branches that intertwine. But in fact, I love looking for something that will stand out. And I've explored lots of forests. But this is one of my favorites, for the form of its trees. What bothers me a bit is that there's green that encircles it, as I'd like it to be in the same shades. There are many that are totally beautiful. I can spend hours looking at them from all angles. That one I particularly like because of its entwined branches. They're a distance away from an orangey background, and that makes something flamboyant. I look for a painting-like feeling. It becomes very dreamlike, abstract. Everything I like, in fact. And there's a mix of harmonies and soft colors. So I have to look for the right angles, and it takes hours. And since I'm guided by my direct vision, as it is simulated here by the live view, with the blur of the 1.2, my contrasts and everything are set, so I trust that and wait. I wait till it's really beautiful. And that's the most complicated, and it also eats my batteries. Since I'm isolated, I have to be careful. I think my hair's stuck. I love exploring these unknown places. Here the forests are more and more coloured. In the distance you can see beautiful waterfalls dive from these immense mountains. So we'll go off trail, a bit randomly, along the brook, among these multicoloured trees. I always have my equipment on me ready to use, in this pack on my front. Because most of the images I love are made during these explorations, on these walks through the unknown. And not just once arrived at destination, well rested, when you're finally able to unpack all your material. Beauty is everywhere. When I discover new places like this, many ideas on framing my shots come to me. I have to be able to try them. If each time I have to put down the bag, take out the camera, it wouldn't be possible. So I have an awkward pack to lug. I like leaving myself a large margin of spontaneity when I'm traveling. You can't always identify and plan things perfectly, and it's also to leave a certain form of magic. Here, nature is vast, wild, and tormented. There's no longer anyone. This atmosphere strangely echoes in me. That's what I love and have come to seek. Originally, I thought it was going to make the loop here, sleep by the lake.
At the South Lake?
Yes, and see the more strange areas there tomorrow. But the problem is that the weather has changed in a somewhat obscure way. It's better that we optimize today, because if tomorrow we're in the chaos, we'll be afraid to pass there. And today the conditions are just perfect, with this ambience here. Ochre. It makes me think of Mordor in Tolkien. This morning there's 10 centimeters of snow everywhere. In fact, extraordinarily pure light. What pleases me already in the mountains in this season is that I cross almost no one. I prefer this feeling, more conducive to being inspired, when I feel alone and a little more privileged in the wild like that. Yes, I'm getting hard into trying to frame the reflection taken in the ice and forming beautiful ice curves. And depending on where I stand, I can have the harmony of this reflection, which is quite pure. Only I have the impression that I'm missing the ideal angle. And the bottom there is full of mud. I lose a lot of time tweaking the composition, while at the same time there are more obvious shots to take. It's annoying. Frustrating too. I love to take shots in the absence of direct light. It gives a projection out of time and out of the real world. There's a clarity, a little spectral. To render sufficient light, it takes more time. This is why I have to fix my tripod without it moving for 30 seconds or more, sometimes in the icy wind. Winter brings a kind of new enveloping purity. I love when it's snowing, especially in the forest. I always wish it'll never stop, that it covers everything. There's a timeless, strange silence. Nothing usual, no elements that will distract me. It allows me to enter more easily into another dimension. On the other hand, in winter, everything is more complicated. Walking is heavier, slower, exhausting. I sometimes want to let myself just fall into the snow and just wait and watch. And the cold remains always the eternal problem, especially for my hands. I think I tried a dozen different types of gloves. It doesn't work very well, except with huge mitts. But then it becomes a little more complex and experimental to use the camera. I usually watch for the fall of temperatures in winter. Some valleys no longer see the light for months, and damp places are transformed into kingdoms of ice. Noble sculptures with improbable forms, a magical fairy tale. But access to these places is more and more complex. Everything is slippery and inaccessible. One must be equipped accordingly. By staying static, this wet cold penetrates everywhere.
Ouais, bon.
In some places, water projections freeze directly on me, on the equipment. The filters become unusable. The tripod is almost impossible to handle. Everything is stuck. It's much more exhausting. The winter and these conditions don't offer themselves easily, but somehow, I like that also. I can't turn the buttons anymore. It's also a little worrying. I'll turn it off. Not sure I can put it away. Can't take anything off. Can't do anything here. Just got to hope it still works. I love location scouting with this software. It can have lots of concrete indications. I like this because I travel already before I travel. And it's really great to be able to project into these places. See the stories of people who've passed through there. I really like this. But it's true that to check everything beforehand removes a certain magic. But it's not really calculating, just anticipating, I think. It opens up the possibility for a few key points and leaves a margin of unknown, where we'll look around and be guided by what we see directly, be inspired on sight. But here at least I have a few key points to motivate me, and to ensure something, as entering complete unknown might mean missing the most striking things. This lake seems particularly well placed with regard to this amazing mountain, the Fitzroy. Imagine we're placed here and decide to set up camp. It could be superb.
Ça peut être magnifique.
Potentially, as you have to see on site, obviously, that's the problem.
Évidemment, le problème, c'est ça.
I like the idea of adventure like this, in places that go beyond what we're used to seeing. It elevates the spirit and joins the notion of ethereal. It's silly to say, but I think that if I was not afraid, if I was really serene, I would less feel this strange inspiration. So it's still roughly balanced. I'm not really ultra anxious, but it happens also. And well, it nourishes something that I try to transcribe in my visions. For me, it's truly related, fear and inspiration. But it's a pain in the butt, as I'm always scared. Depending on how it's framed, how it's photographed, you can imagine scenes born of imagination, like from another planet. So it becomes very evocative, chimeric, and spooky, and everything you'd want. You'd need cloud movements that reveal the unusual for this place. The big advantage of these clouds is that they will mask, create other forms, in fact. I couldn't say how far down it will go because it stops at -30. We put on all the clothes we could because this is a little bit extreme. Earlier, going down the glacier, my eyebrows frosted, and it was hard to blink. At 3,500 meters altitude, we're well placed, but concerned about the cold to come. We found shelter and corded up on the glacier. So we wonder why we put ourselves in such conditions. It's true, one must be well equipped. Gore-Tex on the outside, thick duffel underneath, polar fleece below, another polar underneath, and special underwear.
Cette polaire poilue là, qui ressemble à un mouton. Et là, il y a encore une autre polaire qui est bien aussi, un t-shirt spécial, voilà.
We're here. In this quest, I like to seek new and original locations, to be surprised and renew the creative process. This is an odd area of Iceland. You can easily find harmonious frames in these golden hills. There's a rendering that makes me think of painting. In photography, the light changes everything. I came here on several occasions and the light was too hard, unable to capture softness in the contrast. While the previous year, just prior to a snowstorm, it was just magical. I discovered Iceland in 2009. It was the first time that I was preparing an expedition like this into the unknown. And this trip deeply influenced me, it seems to me. I came back a bit different. Over there's something totally unreal. It's very difficult to describe. But after immersion in these vast expanses, one feels invaded by a rather peculiar feeling. You feel you're not really on the same planet. There is this empty, desolate side, but it is at the same time of rare beauty. It's an absolutely unique decor and sensation. think it's important for me to leave like that, to walk a long time, isolated, to detach from what's real. Leave room for the imaginary. Out there it's just man and nature, in immense plains dotted with strange volcanic domes in new colours. It leaves me more room favourable to inspiration.
J'ai très mal dormi.
I slept very badly.
Ça se voit d'ailleurs vu.
It's in my condition today.
J'ai fait plein de cauchemars.
I had nightmares with these strange things that were prowling around in the woods. This place is a bit more confined with dark forests and twisted trunks. Rather odd. We're here well out of season, in the fall, and it makes me feel good to see these expanses more empty. I don't know what I'm on, but it really sinks easily. I feel more connected with this atmosphere that changes. There are weird colors in the clouds. And then each time it covers over with regard to the wind and rain arriving. In this kind of adventure, there's always a time where everything is wet or soaked. It's complicated because we arrive at camp and plant our tents in a kind of wet earth. Everything is wet. Get up in the morning and everything is still wetter. There are puddles everywhere. And then we carry all our wet gear, which weighs heavier when wet, to put it somewhere just as wet. And what does something wet become when you wet it again?
Qu'est-ce qu'une chose mouillée devient une fois qu'on la remouille encore? Je sais pas. Disons que ça commence à faire un.
It starts to make a kind of mixture that doesn't make you want to go there.
Qui donne plus tellement envie d'y aller, quoi.
In these expeditions of long moments of bad weather with difficult phases, where it's difficult to regenerate physically and mentally also, in these moments we really wonder why we're here. What are we looking for? Energy is gone, morale also. If balance is not well respected, if there are too many hard times and not the opposite, and say we would do this again next year or any year, we immediately want to say no. I'd like to improve this balance, to better live it. Because finally, I'm still someone that's rather anxious, and I don't resist especially well to a series of delicate passages. The perpetual concern with my photos is that they're devoid of life. They lack emotion, they're too smooth. I have this feeling of stagnation, almost a choking feeling in my own universe. We've lost at least 10 to 15 degrees. I know it's snowing even down below now. The whole chain is drowned in a storm. Material is out, but it would be better off stayed where it was. Finally, I think it's my state that's not... I'm really tired. And I don't at all see what to do as images. I love the atmosphere here, but it's also changes in states of being. I need to regain energy. Here I find nothing. I thought it was best to escape to new spaces far from the mountains. An island, the ocean. A change of context is always good to bring perspective. To stay in a flow of inspiration, I need to feel, to innovate something. I explore mixtures of hues, strange and new. There has to remain an unfathomable and mysterious part. I need this fascination to advance. Otherwise I sink, I lack energy. I'm quickly subject to this strange, abstract melancholy that gnaws at me little by little and prevents me from moving forward. It's a very demanding quest, as if I run after something absolute. And when I think I approach it, it flies away even further, towards a new unknown, nebulous and impalpable. For now, I immerse myself in this atmosphere of, this impression of being at the end of the world here. And these anxieties with the sea and everything. It's singular. It's a lot of investment, time spent, material that breaks, spending of money, because I take a lot of risks, looking for poignant places and shots, in dangerous, complicated situations. We break stuff, And the problem is, I don't know if it's going to remain viable. Actually, in fact, it never really was. Sometimes I say to myself, what's the good? Endangering yourself all the time. Yes, we live great moments, really magical moments. At each location, new discoveries. It's very good to live. This is a fascination. I'm guided by an energy that I don't understand at that moment in time. If I lose a part of this fascination in addition, then it's totally over. Even crazier, it seems to me like a painting or totally surreal scenes. The next step is still too abstract. I can't even visualize it. I can't materialize it. I think by the end of this year I'll know if I continue photography, take that direction, or if I stop. I need my photos to go further, that there be more emotion. I'm going round in circles, not right. I have to find a solution. I absolutely don't know which for the moment. It's a strange quest into nothingness. But these are energy streams. Fortunately, they evolve. And it's often in the middle of this latent despair that all of a sudden the sky opens and we discover a completely mesmerizing situation. Immense, that emerges through the clouds like a ghostly appearance. It's so supernatural and magical that, well, in a few seconds we know exactly why we're here, and no matter the rest. Inspiration wins, confidence returns, I rise and continue. We got up around 1 hour before sunrise. We could see 2 or 3 openings, and it leads us to think that here the sun would make an ephemeral appearance and enflame the dense sky, which I like much, because there's a lot of different cloud layers and even colors in the clouds. You see blue and yellows and very dark gray. Until the last moment, we didn't really believe there'd be a especially beautiful sky. There was nothing, and it was suddenly released in a rather mad way. We're truly in the density and power of these mountains, and it was really beautiful, really much, much better than yesterday morning, for example, where it was nice, but it was soft, a little mild, a little normal. This was more apocalyptic. Painting has always fascinated me because you can create your own vision. I believe it attracts me more and more. I love searching for more abstract compositions in these half-tone pastels. When the first snow falls on an autumn forest, there's a strange softness. It's beautiful, no?